What if I told you that one of America's strangest legends doesn't happen in an abandoned house or on a haunted highway, but high in the California mountains? A place where hikers swear they've seen towering, shadowy figures standing on the ridges, silently watching. Tonight, we're beginning our journey into 3 of America's scariest urban legends with the story of the Dark Watchers. Imagine hiking alone in the mountains, the sun sinking low when you glance up at the ridgeline, and realize something impossibly tall is standing there, perfectly still, watching. The Santa Lucia Mountains stretch along California's rugged central coast, jagged ridges, cliffs that drop into the ocean, and forests that seem endless. They're breathtaking in daylight, but at dusk, when the fog rolls in heavy, the range takes on an entirely different feeling. Hikers have long whispered about the same thing, shadowy figures that appear on the ridges as the sun disappears. For centuries, people have seen them. The Chumash spoke of tall spirits that kept watch over the land. Spanish settlers called them Los Vigilantes Oscuros, the Dark Watchers. Even writers like John Steinbeck and Robinson Jeffers mentioned them in their work. Always the same description: towering, cloaked silhouettes standing silently, always at a distance, always vanishing when approached. Some say they're protectors, others call them omens. But everyone agrees on one thing: when you see them, you never forget it. In the late 1930s, a hiker named Thomas was descending the trail as night fell. He was tired, his canteen nearly empty, and the woods around him were unusually quiet. That's when he felt it, that prickle of being watched. He stopped and looked up at the ridge above. His breath caught in his throat. A figure stood there, huge, at least 10 feet tall, cloaked, faceless, perfectly still. Thomas squinted, waiting for it to move, but it never did. It just stared. Heart pounding, he raised his arm, maybe to wave, maybe just to shield his eyes. And in that instant, it vanished. Not like a man walking away, more like it dissolved into the mountain itself. Shaken, Thomas kept moving, quickening his pace. But then, halfway down the trail, he looked back. On the opposite ridge stood 2 more figures. They didn't move. They didn't make a sound. But their presence was overwhelming. Thomas ran the rest of the way down, swearing he'd never hike those mountains alone again. The Dark Watchers haven't faded into myth. To this day, hikers, ranchers, and travelers report seeing them, always at dusk, always when they're alone. The descriptions never change: giant silhouettes, cloaked in shadow, watching silently from afar. Skeptics say it's just pareidolia, our brains turning rock formations and shadows into human shapes. Others blame exhaustion, isolation, or the eerie tricks of coastal fog. But the sightings go back too far, and there are too many of them for it to be just coincidence. And what unsettles witnesses most isn't what the figures do. It's what they don't. They don't move. They don't chase. They don't speak. They just watch. Long enough for you to notice. Long enough for you to question your sanity before dissolving into the mist. So if you ever find yourself hiking the Santa Lucias and the sun dips low, pay attention to the ridges above. Because if you see one of them staring down at you, there's nothing you can do. The Watchers don't follow. They don't approach. They simply wait. And the truth is, you may never know why. Fairfax County, Virginia looks like the last place you'd expect to find a monster. It's just far enough outside of Washington, D.C. to feel quiet, safe, and suburban. Rows of houses, cul-de-sacs, and forested roads that feel more cozy than threatening. But if you drive down Colchester Road, eventually you'll come across a bridge. A narrow, one-lane overpass where a railway cuts across the road. To most, it's just another piece of infrastructure. But to locals, it has a name: Bunnyman Bridge. The story begins in the 1970s. People started whispering about a man in a rabbit costume appearing at night around the bridge, terrifying passers-by. The most popular version says 2 inmates escaped from a nearby asylum, though in reality no such asylum existed. One supposedly died in the woods, leaving the survivor to live off rabbits. He was said to mutilate them, hanging their carcasses from trees. Eventually, legend says, he stitched together a grotesque suit from rabbit pelts, becoming the Bunny Man. While that might sound like campfire nonsense, there's a reason the story hasn't faded. Some of it is real. In October of 1970, multiple people filed police reports about a man in a white rabbit suit wielding an axe. In one case, he was seen standing on a porch, screaming at strangers. In another, he hurled a hatchet through the window of a passing car. Police even investigated, but they never found him. The idea that something part myth, part fact could be waiting at that bridge gave the place a reputation. By the late 70s, teenagers were daring each other to park beneath the bridge at midnight and wait. Some laughed it off. Others swore they heard scratching on their car roof or saw something moving in the woods. Halloween night, 1978. A group of teenagers decided to test the legend. They drove down Colchester Road with the radio turned down low, headlights sweeping across the dark tree line. When they reached the bridge, the driver pulled over, cutting the engine. Suddenly, it was silent. So silent that you could hear the ticking of the cooling engine echo under the bridge. At first, it was almost funny. They sat in the dark, teasing each other, waiting for the Bunny Man to appear. One of the boys said, "I'll bet you all $20 this is just a dumb story." They laughed. But then, there it was. A sound. It started faint. Something dragged across the roof of the car. Everyone inside froze, holding their breath, trying to decide if it was their imagination. Then came footsteps. Heavy, deliberate crunches in the gravel just outside. The driver reached for the ignition, hands shaking, when someone screamed, "Look!" Standing just beyond the glow of the headlights was a tall figure. 2 long ears stuck up into the night sky, and on his face, something that barely resembled a rabbit. It wasn't a store-bought Easter Bunny mask. It looked handmade, stitched together, with one eye hanging lower than the other, like skin stretched too tight, and in his hand, an axe. The steel glinted as he stepped closer. The group panicked. One girl locked her door while another tried to roll the window up. But before the driver could turn the key, the Bunny Man raised the axe and slammed it down. The blade crashed against the hood, sparks flying as metal dented under the blow. The car roared to life, tires squealing as the driver floored it. Gravel spat out behind them as they tore down the road. No one dared to look back. But even over the roar of the engine, they swore they could hear him screaming, a high-pitched shriek that didn't sound entirely human. The teens sped home, shaking, swearing they'd never go back. Some of their parents dismissed it as a prank, saying, "Kids in costumes always try to scare each other on Halloween." But the story spread, and the details matched dozens of other encounters people claimed to have had in the same area. The police never caught anyone. Some said the Bunny Man was just a local man with a twisted sense of humor who eventually stopped. Others believed he died out in those woods, still haunting the bridge every October. Today, Bunny Man Bridge is infamous. Every Halloween, crowds still gather there. So many that police patrol the area, warning people not to trespass. Still, thrill seekers come. They park their cars, turn off the lights, and sit in the dark. Some leave disappointed. Others swear they've heard the same scratching on their roof. But the strangest reports are from people who didn't even stop. Drivers who pass the bridge late at night sometimes glimpse a figure standing perfectly still in the shadows. A tall man, long ears, an axe glinting in the dark, and almost everyone who's seen him says the same thing. The mask doesn't look like a mask at all. It looks stitched together, sagging, wrong. So the next time you're driving in Fairfax County and your GPS takes you down a winding road toward a lonely train bridge, keep going. Don't stop. Don't test the legend. Because under Bunnyman Bridge, he might still be waiting. Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut all share a legend that sounds too bizarre to be true. Hidden in the woods, away from towns and highways, people claim there lives a colony of twisted, child-sized figures with oversized, swollen heads. They're called the Melonheads. The origins of the legend change depending on who tells it. Some say they were children from a nearby asylum, subjected to cruel medical experiments that left them deformed before they escaped into the woods. Others say they're inbred outcasts, a family line so far removed from society that their bodies warped over generations. Whatever the explanation, locals agree on one thing. If you wander into the wrong part of the forest at night, you'll hear them before you see them. Twigs snapping, leaves rustling, low giggles echoing from the dark. And if you're unlucky, you'll catch a glimpse of them between the trees, small, fast-moving shapes with bulbous heads and pale faces that vanish as quickly as they appear. In the 1980s, a teenager named Adam and his friends in Michigan decided to prove the legend was fake. They drove out to a back road near Holland, parked and hiked into the woods with flashlights. For the first half hour, it was quiet. The only sound was their boots crunching on leaves. But then Adam froze. Something moved just ahead, low to the ground, darting between the trees. The group stopped, shining their flashlights. At first, nothing. Then the beam caught a face. Small, pale. With an oversized head, its eyes glinting unnaturally in the light. The figure hissed, then vanished into the brush. Seconds later, more rustling surrounded them. They were being circled. The boys shouted, panic rising as tiny shadows darted between trees. Then came the sound that broke them. The laughter. High-pitched, childlike, but wrong, echoing from all sides. They sprinted back toward the car, flashlights bouncing wildly. Just as Adam reached the road, he turned back and saw one of them clearly. No taller than his chest, its limbs thin and twisted, its head swollen and misshapen. It crouched at the edge of the trees, watching him, smiling. Adam never forgot what he saw that night. And over the years, more stories piled up. Drivers on back roads report seeing small shapes scurrying across the pavement, vanishing into the ditch. Hunters claim they've found makeshift shelters in the woods, branches lashed together, gnawed animal bones scattered inside. Some people laugh it off as a campfire story meant to scare kids, but others swear the Melonheads are real. And the scariest detail? They don't just watch. In some tales, they chase intruders, pelting cars with rocks or luring people deeper into the woods, never to be seen again. Whether they're deformed survivors, inbred outcasts, or something unexplainable, the Melonheads have become a living nightmare for anyone unlucky enough to cross paths with them, and the legend shows no signs of fading. So if you're ever driving through the Midwest late at night, and you hear something tapping on your car from the tree line, don't stop, because once you see them, there's no telling if you'll ever make it back out.